Commander Gentle resurfaced after a long silence to issue a stern warning to the governor of Imo State, Hope Uzodimma, and his military forces and political leaders, asserting that no amount of military presence can stop the Biafran liberation effort. He declared that Biafra is no longer a government in exile, insisting that it is now a recognized nation on Biafran soil, and that all previous representations abroad should be seen as embassies of an established nation. He shared the last broadcast of Commander Holy Ghost, who was reportedly killed shortly afterward by unidentified attackers, making this message his final communication. During the broadcast, Commander Holy Ghost urged all factions of Biafran fighters to stop internal conflicts and unite against what he called the real enemy, Fulani herdsmen and forces attacking Biafran communities. He proposed a new amnesty program, offering all fighters, including those who have committed atrocities or collaborated with government forces, a chance to surrender peacefully within 2 weeks and be reintegrated into society. He pleaded with fighters to stop the bloodshed and end senseless killings and kidnappings, warning that violence will not bring Biafra and that the dream cannot be bought with money or war. Commander Holy Ghost condemned the continued activities of Eastern Security Network, ESN, in Osu local government area, calling for their operations to stop immediately due to reported atrocities. He lamented the devastation in Imo State, especially the collapse of road infrastructure, blaming poor governance and ongoing violence for reversing the state's development and investment growth. Commander Gentle emphasized that misinformation, confusion, and distraction are harming the Biafran cause, urging all supporters to spread the message of unity and peace across social media. He ended with an emotional appeal to the public to support Biafra's recognition as a nation and help preserve the memory and message of the now deceased Commander Holy Ghost. The silence had been long and unnerving. For weeks, many people wondered where Commander Gentle had gone. Some feared he had been captured. Others believed he had gone underground, possibly betrayed, or simply fallen victim to the ongoing chaos across the southeastern part of Nigeria. But when Commander Gentle reappeared, his voice thundered through digital platforms like a long-awaited storm. The message he brought with him was not just strong, it was personal, final, and emotional. It was a message aimed directly at the governor of Imo State, Hope Uzodimma, and to all those who had been searching for him, hunting him, or trying to extinguish the embers of the Biafran liberation movement. Commander Gentle made it clear that he was not hiding. He was not afraid. He was not defeated. And most importantly, he was not going to give up on the dream that had carried generations of Biafran loyalists through pain, exile, death, and hopelessness. Commander Gentle told Governor Hope Uzodimma in no uncertain terms that no matter how many soldiers he sent, no matter how many checkpoints were mounted, and no matter how many villages were raided in the name of national security, Biafra could never be silenced with military boots or bullets. He declared with a sharp sense of confidence that Biafra was no longer just an idea in exile, no longer a shadow government scattered across different nations. According to him, Biafra was now a nation reborn, existing in full presence on Biafran soil, breathing through the hearts and actions of its people. He went even further. Commander Gentle insisted that all the Biafran officers and representatives operating abroad should no longer be viewed as mere advocacy arms of a suppressed movement. He said they were now the embassies of a legitimate and established nation. He challenged the global community, African leaders, and the Nigerian government to recognize this reality and stop pretending that Biafra was just a forgotten rebellion. In the same breath, he warned Governor Hope Uzodimma to stop searching for him. He said the energy being used to hunt him down would be better spent fixing the crumbling roads of Imo State, addressing poverty, and ending the cycle of violence that had turned the state into a war zone. But what made this appearance of Commander Gentle even more powerful was not just his warning, it was the fact that he brought with him the voice of a fallen brother. Commander Gentle played the last broadcast of Commander Holy Ghost, a man who had inspired many young Biafran fighters and who had spoken passionately about peace, unity, and strategic resistance. That voice, now silent in the physical world, was full of fire in its final moments. Commander Holy Ghost had reportedly been killed shortly after that broadcast by unknown attackers, making his words the final message he ever shared with the world. And those words were not of hatred or vengeance, but of hope and healing. In his last message, Commander Holy Ghost called upon all the fragmented Biafran groups, the ones fighting under different banners, the ones who had fallen into personal feuds, the ones who had made enemies of their own brothers. He urged them to stop the internal conflicts. He said, with a voice soaked in emotion, that the true enemy was not each other. The real threat, according to him, were the armed herdsmen invading their farmlands, burning their villages, and slaughtering their people in the night. He said the real enemy were the forces that attacked Biafran communities in the name of fighting terrorism, while the very people living in fear and pain were the ones being labeled as terrorists. Commander Holy Ghost pleaded for unity. He knew that division among fighters only made them easier to defeat. He reminded everyone that the goal was never to kill fellow Biafrans or compete over territories, power, or influence. The goal was to reclaim dignity, freedom, and safety for their people. And in a surprising but deeply thoughtful move, he introduced what he called a new amnesty program. This was not the kind of amnesty filled with empty promises or political manipulation. It was a genuine call from one fighter to another. He said every Biafran fighter, even those who had made terrible mistakes, even those who had been bribed or forced to work with government forces, would be welcomed back if they surrendered peacefully within 2 weeks. He asked them to come home. He asked them to lay down their arms. He asked them to return not as criminals, but as brothers who had lost their way. And he promised that there would be a path for them to be reintegrated into society. The dream, he said, would not be achieved through endless bloodshed. Killing each other, kidnapping people for ransom, or setting towns ablaze would never lead to freedom. Commander Holy Ghost said Biafra could not be bought with war money, nor built on the bones of innocent children. He took a bold step in his broadcast when he condemned the activities of the Eastern Security Network, especially in Osu local government area. This was a group that had once been formed to defend Biafran communities from external aggression. But according to him, they had now become a source of terror themselves. He said the reports of atrocities coming from Osu were heartbreaking, and that their operations must stop immediately. The message was controversial, but it came from a place of sincerity. Commander Holy Ghost was not trying to destroy the movement. He was trying to save its soul. He lamented the situation in Imo State. He spoke like a man who had seen the beauty of the land and now watched it being swallowed by neglect and violence. The roads were collapsing, communities were deserted, and businesses were closing. The state that once held so much promise was becoming a ghost town in some areas. He blamed poor governance. He blamed the endless back and forth between political leaders and armed groups, and he warned that if something did not change quickly, Imo State would slide into permanent ruin. After playing that broadcast, Commander Gentle took the message further. He said that misinformation, confusion, and internal distractions were doing more damage to the Biafran cause than any government soldier ever could. He said lies were spreading on social media, turning Biafran supporters against each other. People were being accused without evidence. Groups were clashing because of propaganda. And in the middle of all that noise, the real message of Biafra was being lost. Commander Gentle begged the people not to fall into that trap. He asked supporters of the Biafran movement to use social media wisely. He said they must share truth, not fear. They must spread unity, not division. They must remember why they started this journey in the first place, not for personal fame, not for revenge, but for the restoration of a homeland that had been denied for too long. He ended his message with a trembling voice. He spoke of Commander Holy Ghost not just as a fellow fighter, but as a brother. He said the man had died, not just a soldier, but a prophet, and his words, though spoken days ago, were still alive. Commander Gentle asked everyone who believed in Biafra to help preserve the memory of Commander Holy Ghost. He said if people truly wanted to honor him, they should put down their weapons, stop the infighting, and focus on the dream. A dream that could only survive through unity, discipline, and peace. As this message spread across platforms like YouTube, Facebook, WhatsApp groups, and community radio stations, it ignited conversations across southeastern Nigeria. In markets, bus stops, church gatherings, and local bars, people discussed what it meant. Some were shocked. Others were moved to tears. A few still held their doubts, but the message could not be ignored. For the first time in a long while, a voice from the battlefield was calling for peace, not war, for healing, not more wounds, for strategy, not chaos. Across villages in Imo State, Enugu State, Abia State, Ebonyi State, and Anambra State, the reactions were mixed but intense. Mothers whose sons had been missing for months prayed they would hear this message and come home. Young men with rifles hidden in bushes began to ask if there was still a way back. Community elders, who had watched their towns become battlegrounds, hoped this message could become a turning point. But even as people embraced the message, the danger remained. Government forces were still active. Military patrols still roamed certain towns. The search for key Biafran leaders, including Commander Gentle, was still underway. There was no guarantee that this call for peace would be respected by those in power. There was no guarantee that surrendering fighters would be treated fairly. There was no guarantee that unity would come easily after so much pain. Still, something had changed. The voice of Commander Holy Ghost, now gone but not forgotten, had planted a seed, and Commander Gentle, still on the run but defiantly standing his ground, had watered that seed with truth. The question now was whether the people, tired, wounded, divided, would rise to protect that seed and let it grow into something real. In the coming days, how the government of Nigeria, the administration of Governor Hope Uzodimma, and the leaders of the Biafran movement respond to this moment will shape the future of the region. But one thing is already certain. The story of Biafra has entered a new chapter. And in that chapter, the voice of a dead commander and the courage of a hunted leader have come together to ask the people a difficult question. Is the bloodshed worth it, or is there still a road to peace? As the dust of Commander Gentle's broadcast settled, people across the southeastern region of Nigeria were left grappling with many thoughts, emotions, and fears. The message he sent to Governor Hope Uzodimma was not just a simple threat or declaration of defiance. It was a statement of conviction, a battle cry wrapped in a plea for peace. People understood that something deeper had just happened. The very tone of the Biafran conversation had shifted. From isolated pockets of violence and vengeance, it was now being redirected toward a greater goal, reconciliation and strategic unity. In Owerri, the capital city of Imo State, Governor Hope Uzodimma's government remained silent for several hours after the broadcast went viral. However, insiders in the state security network confirmed that the governor had watched the entire video, and the Situation Room immediately intensified surveillance efforts. Military patrols were increased in areas suspected of harboring fighters, particularly around Orlu, Ihiteoboma, Oguta, and parts of Okigwe. Despite this, the people on the ground, traders, farmers, elders, and community leaders, were more concerned with the content of the message than the government's reaction to it. In villages like Izombe and Awo Omama, both of which had suffered heavy military raids and local clashes in recent months, the people gathered around radio sets and smartphones to listen to Commander Holy Ghost's last voice again and again. Some cried, others sat in silence. The words he spoke, calling for unity, for an end to violence, and for fighters to lay down their arms, touched a wound that many in these communities had long buried under anger and grief. Elder Michael Naji, a retired headmaster from Magbidi, said with tears in his eyes, "This is the voice we needed to hear. Too many of our sons have died. Too many of our daughters have been kidnapped. This commander is already gone, but what he said may still save lives." In Anambra State, particularly in towns like Newi and Ihiala, young men who had previously been radicalized by local agitators began to gather in small groups to talk about what surrender would look like. One of them, who identified himself only as Chinedu, admitted that he had picked up arms 2 years ago, driven by pain after his uncle was killed during a security operation. But now he was tired. He missed his family. He said, "Commander Holy Ghost is right. We are killing each other and calling it freedom. I want to go home." Even in Ebonyi State, where tension between vigilante groups and government security operatives remained high, whispers of the message began to soften the tone of local resistance. Pastor Ebere Eze of Afikpo North hosted a prayer vigil for peace in honor of the late Commander Holy Ghost. "He may have died," the pastor told the congregation, "but his words live. If we cannot listen to the dead who call for peace, then we have truly lost our humanity." Biafran sympathizers from Europe, North America, and parts of Asia began reposting clips of the broadcast with captions encouraging unity, discipline, and peaceful advocacy. For the first time in many months, Biafra-related online spaces were not dominated by threats or blame games, but by discussions of forgiveness, structure, and strategy. Diaspora-based organizations like the Biafran Global Outreach in the United Kingdom and the Friends of Biafra International, based in Germany, released joint statements supporting Commander Holy Ghost's message and urging all fighters in the southeastern region to take the proposed 2-week amnesty seriously. In Finland, where Simon Joku Ekpa continues to lead a separate faction of the Biafran movement, there were mixed responses. While some of his followers respected the call for peace, others saw it as a distraction or even a compromise. The tension between different Biafran factions, those who follow Simon Joku Ekpa, those loyal to Nnamdi Kanu and the indigenous people of Biafra, and smaller groups like Commander Gentle's militia, remains one of the biggest obstacles to unity. But with Commander Holy Ghost now gone, and his last message ringing with sincerity, there is a new pressure on these groups to set aside personal ambitions and create a common front. Human rights organizations in Nigeria also responded to the message. Amnesty International. Nigeria released a statement saying, "The call by a Biafran commander for peaceful reintegration and an end to intra-community violence must not be ignored. Authorities must ensure any amnesty program is handled with fairness, transparency, and a commitment to human dignity." Meanwhile, traditional rulers in Imo State and Anambra State began calling emergency meetings to discuss how communities could respond to the 2-week window given for fighters to surrender. In Nkwera local government area, His Royal Highness Eze Augustine Okiki convened a gathering of village heads, youth leaders, and women's groups. He said, "Let us prepare ourselves to receive our sons who may want to return home. Let us not greet them with shame. Let us greet them with open arms and guide them back into society." But while the civilian population was beginning to hope for peace, the Nigerian military showed no signs of slowing down its operations. In fact, within 72 hours of the broadcast, there were reports of renewed raids in Orsu local government area and surrounding villages. Helicopters hovered over suspected camps, and several youths were reportedly arrested. The army spokesperson in Owerri, Major Godwin Adejo, said, "We are not distracted by propaganda videos. We are committed to securing the southeast against all criminal elements. The public should disregard any illegal calls to lay down arms without federal supervision." This statement drew criticism from activists and some lawmakers who argued that if people were genuinely willing to surrender, the government should not block that path. Senator Enyinnaya Abaribe, a known supporter of dialogue and peaceful resolution of the Biafran crisis, said in a radio interview, "What is the harm in peace? If these fighters say they are tired of bloodshed and want amnesty, why should we send tanks instead of negotiators?" Amid all these political debates, Commander Gentle remained in hiding, but his voice and his message remained visible. On the 5th day after the broadcast, he released another short video, this time showing him in a forested area surrounded by local farmers. In that video, he was not dressed in military gear, but in simple traditional attire. He said, "I am among my people. These are the people I fight for. Let the government see that I am not hiding in caves. I am in our land." This video caused even more tension as it appeared to challenge the state's ability to control its own territory. But it also sent another message, that the fight was not about egos or borders, but about survival. The image of Commander Gentle sitting with local farmers who had lost their crops to armed invasions was powerful. It reminded people that the Biafran movement, in its truest sense, began with the suffering of ordinary men and women, not just with flags or slogans. And as the days passed, signs of change began to appear. In Ihiala, 2 young men surrendered themselves to their local church, saying they had heard the broadcast and no longer wished to live in the bush. In Orlu, a mother who had not seen her son in 18 months got a call. He was alive. He wanted to come home. And in parts of Enugu, activists began distributing flyers summarizing Commander Holy Ghost's message in local dialects for older villagers who could not understand English. The memory of Commander Holy Ghost now rests like a fire burning quietly in many hearts. He is no longer just a fighter. He is a voice, a symbol of what the Biafran struggle could become, if it was rooted in discipline and brotherhood, rather than confusion and revenge. As his name is whispered in homes and in forests, the people face a choice: to continue a cycle of pain, or to write a new story with the ink of unity. The countdown to the end of the 2-week amnesty period has already begun. Whether this becomes a turning point or just another lost opportunity depends on the courage of the fighters, the honesty of the leaders, and wisdom of the people.
Message to you. It is better for you to divide this nation. We are not a Nigerian and we can never be a Nigerian. Tinubu, I am so much out with my men for you. And we will finish you up these days. Before God and man, anyhow you want it. If you like on with fighter jet, 200 fighter jets. If you like on with armor tankers, we will finish you all. That is the strong message for you. And if you are reasoning very well, you must.
Ndenka na cross road leni nama lezieni leka nama shina gare leni nama leni kan nama shina gare na road wobi owere afukule mebe ya na emeni before leni nama na gare.
It's the time where every media handle supposed to focus and spread the good news that Biafra is no longer a government in exile, that Biafra now is a nation, that the world should recognize that Biafra nation. Remember, once a nation is being declared from exile, it is no longer a government in exile. Every Lazar office automatically turned to embassy. This time that we had, this festival time, is a time to spread the news that Biafra is no longer a government in exile. That Biafra now is a nation in Biafra land. So therefore, anybody still hanging on the platform of government in exile should exist from there. It is no longer government in exile because it has been declared. It is a nation, the United States of Biafra nation. We are here this evening to educate those of you who are ignorant about what you're supposed to do at this time. The distraction should stop. The confusion should end.
It is not our own interest to continue losing our brothers and sisters. They are deceived. They get voluntarily. Voluntarily, they will be safe and they will be welcomed. Why you behind the Uzodimma is proposing another amnesty and a second opportunity. In all of our brother, either knowingly or hammer, irrespective of how long you stay there, if put up voluntarily, we will accept you. We will accept you. We will cancel you. Try and propose another amnesty in 2 weeks' time. Okay, duly communicated. So in this, all the PGs in our local government, see what the message here we get to all the community non also. Ndu munne ha, wadi ala ha, ikunibe ha, ka fotokra ni mohyo. Nuru bin chegari, chori chegari. Come on, here another golden opportunity for you to come unconditionally and surrender yourself. All of us also get Biafra. Not at all. So don't let it deceived one way or another. Ban this devilish art. Here another golden opportunity. Haga make inquiry before the better we save ourselves. Nibu Makio, USN now, Nibu. Minejere Mozio, Minikutra Hotamao, Minikutra Mirio. No matter how you are collaborating with them, if you come out and surrender, also we welcome you. Strategy, I know that another opportunity. I don't think after this, no one's Babiano. Let them be advised and come out gallantly. Gallantly. And they will be safe. Because someone will better out. If you are caught, the same treatment in the also you may have the same treatment. But when you come out gallantly, I get one amnesty, the date will be communicated. in 2 weeks time. And all happen nowhere. Now usual place I want to miss it before now. Here was soon in that book. Let us stop this bloodshed by sharing and killing the generation of us. Killing Ikunibe, family men's. Ojiwai. No. Ending their future, ending their life for nothing. On a mere fallacy. No, it's Biafra. 1,000 or so cannot give you Biafra. 1 billion or so cannot give you Biafra. It's your Biafra. Biafra National Assembly. No, Abuja here. Oh, what kind of logic are you saying? Because here a special appeal. Actually, man. No, I want another great opportunity to welcome Munani without any bitterness in the heart. Without. So, any soul killed in Osun, about anybody who kill, killing Osun people, make no kidnapping people, raping women, all manner of atrocities. And then also at the backward 10 years back, also was growing with speed. Infrastructure, investment was coming to us with speed until this devilish act started. And I am here, take years and cost us our innocent ones. Because Okubadela too much. This amnesty, let all of us rally around with it. Sensitize our people. Call our brother and those of Fotokurani more here. Call them to save their life. And the man may be not here. Everybody also buy for how long? If we then also buy for how long? Let them come out and save their life. Save their life. And let us replan ourselves back and reintegrate our lost ones. Thank you very much. I am a tell of our brothers and sisters. They deceived. They get voluntarily. But voluntarily, they will be safe and they will be welcomed. Why you behind the Uzodimma is proposing another amnesty and a second opportunity. In all of our brother, in the neighbor, either by knowingly or hammer, irrespective of how long you stay there, if put out voluntarily, we will accept you. We will accept you. We will cancel you. Try and propose another amnesty in 2 weeks' time. All got duly communicated. So in this, all the PGs in our local government. See what the message here we get to all the community non also. Ndu munna ha, wadi ala ha, ikunibe ha, ka fotokra ni mo hyo. Nuru bin chegari, chori chegari. Come on, here another golden opportunity for you to come unconditionally and surrender yourself. All of us also get Biafra. Not at all. So don't let it deceived one way or another. Ban this devilish act. Here another golden opportunity. Haga make inquiry before the better we save ourselves. Nibu makyo USN now. Nibu. Minejere mozio. Minikutra hotamao. Minikutra mirio. No matter how you are collaborating with them, if you come out and surrender, also we welcome you. So I know another opportunity. I don't think after this, let them be advised and come out gallantly, and they will be safe. Because someone will better out if you are caught. The same treatment in the also you may have the same treatment. But when you come out gallantly, I give one amnesty. The date will be communicated in 2 weeks' time. And don't happen nowhere. Now, usual place I want to amnesty before now. Here was soon in that book. Let us stop this bloodshed by sharing and killing the generation of us. Killing Ikunibe, family men's. Ojimwai, no no so. Ending their future, ending their life for nothing, on a mere fallacy. No, it's Biafra. 1,000 or so cannot give you Biafra. 1 billion or so cannot give you Biafra. It's your Biafra, Biafra National Assembly, no Abuja here. Oh, what kind of logic are you saying? Because here a special appeal, actually, man. No Koribe. I want another great opportunity to welcome Munani without any bitterness in the heart. Without. So, any soul killed in Osun, about anybody who kill, killing Osun people, make no kidnapping people, raping women, all manner of atrocities. And then also at the backward 10 years back, also was growing with speed. Infrastructure, investment was coming to also with speed until this devilish act started. And I make one here, take years and cost us our innocent ones. Because Okubadela too much. This amnesty, let all of us rally around with it. Sensitize our people. Call our brother and those of Fotokurani more here. Call them to save their life. And the man may be not here. Everybody also buy for how long? If we don't also for how long? Let them come out.
This is the end of our news update. Please click the icon on the top right corner of your screen to watch my next video. You will enjoy it. I will see you again in my next update. Enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye for now.